Hello and welcome to part one of the College Prep informational session brought to you by Positive Changemaker and nonprofit organization. My name is Antoinette Erskine and I am the founder of Positive Changemaker. Our mission is to foster financial literacy in individuals and families while striving to provide children with useful tools towards their academic journey. You may ask why we're doing this. There are two individuals that explains it best. Muhammad Ali, world-renowned boxer, once said, "Service to others is the rent we pay for room on this earth." And Maurice Mann, an advocate for free education, said doing nothing for others is the undoing of ourselves. I am passionate about financial coaching, the wellness of others, and education. One of my greatest joy is seeing individuals win with their hard-earned money, changing what seems to be impossible into wonderful possibilities. As a mother, I know what that felt like when I needed guidance in the transition process when my son was going to school. So I always made myself available to help others. What better way to create change than in something that you're passionate about? Our channel is to educate and inform. Please like, share, and comment and subscribe to our channel to receive updated information. This session is for students in high school and college alike, parents and friends, and just those who are interested in gaining information to help others. Right now, there are students and parents who are navigating through the college readiness process. I know firsthand how daunting this process can be, but don't worry. Who best can help than individuals who have walked the same path you are on? Today, I'll be speaking with two young adults who are willing to share their own experience from high school to college. Without further ado, let us welcome our two special guests, Jody Ann Osborne and Rohan Johnson.
Hi.
Hello there.
Jody Ann and Rohan, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get started. First, I would like you both to introduce yourselves to us.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
My name is Jody Ann Osborne. I work as a senior clinical analyst for a healthcare organization. I have an undergraduate degree in psychology, and my passions include traveling, technology, education, and the likes.
Okay. And I'm Rohan Johnson. Currently, I'm a commodity manager at an aerospace and defense company. I attended Buffalo State, and I focused in on economics and finance as my major. And I do also like traveling.
Thank you for adding that. Jody Ann, did you say where you went to school? We want to know where you did your undergrad.
My undergraduate years, I went to Hamilton. I graduated from Hamilton with a bachelor's in psychology.
Okay.
But I've also had experience in the CUNY system as well. So
perfect. Great. Thank you so much. In your estimation, how early should students start their college or higher education preparation process? What do you think?
It's never too early to start. You could start from middle school because, of course, you're beginning the preparation for PSATs. I'm not entirely sure what the process is, but once you're able to get some insights into what you can expect during your, like, let's say, higher high school years, it's a lot easier, of course, in terms of navigation. So personally, it's never too early to start. If you can start from middle school and get some insights, sure. But even if you're in your freshman year of high school, you're perfectly fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say start as early as you can. You might have older siblings or friends that go away, ask them questions, just gather as much information as you can, and that will help you with your decision making on where you would like to go, what you like. But it's never too early to start.
Great, great. Thanks. Because we do see where people are getting into their final year and then they're trying to navigate stuff around, and
Yeah.
that doesn't work because you're literally almost too late at that time to do anything. So thank you for that. What are some of the things that students should look for in their college selection process?
So I mean, ultimately, it depends on what you're looking for, right? So, I think within your selection process, you want to cater it to what you like, what you're driving towards. Whether it's if you're an athlete and you're going towards a school because of their athletic performance, then that might stray you to a different choice. If you're doing it for a specific reason, because they might have um, additional experience or the school is more prevalent in a specific major, then that might be something that will sway you towards your choice. So I think it all comes down to going back to your first question, right? Doing your research, getting an understanding of what schools can and cannot offer, and then tailor to what you ideally would like to get out of the school, whether it's academics or athletics or location, then you can cater to it.
I would suggest one thing, especially when you're selecting schools, you have some great points, but to add on to that, site or school visits, definitely recommend that because, of course, you get to experience quote unquote life on campus, even if it's just for the weekend. That might be a great thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. I took a school visit. I took a school visit. And I ended up it was Alfred State, and I'm not speaking bad about them, but it just wasn't for me. Where they were pretty much in between two mountains. When I after the visit, I looked at my mom like, yeah, there's no way I'm coming here just because of the location. So yeah, I do agree with the school visits. It helps.
Great. School visit. So, I know you both attended college, but college versus trade school, what are your thoughts?
That's an individual preference.
Mhm.
Some individuals may be ready, like for example, let's say a person have always envisioned themselves as being a medical professional in terms of a doctor or a lawyer, and they know that they're gonna need probably 8 years of schooling. You can definitely, of course, start with your AP classes, get those, so of course to kind of cut down on your time, so to speak. But one thing to always keep in mind is how long your college years are going to take. In terms of a trade school, trade schools are not a bad option for individuals who don't know what they want to do because, of course, they're acquiring skills in the meantime until you know what it is that you really want. There's a program called Job Corps, and they offer quite a bit in terms of, like, let's say, a dental assistant program. If individuals do not have the means for finance and education, they can definitely sign up for Job Corps or any of the other type of core products out there, so they can have some insights into what it is like being a student and also receiving a stipend. So with the college versus trade school, it depends on, of course, the finances, the family finances, and a person's long-term goals. Those are the driving factors behind whether or not a person should choose college over a trade school. That's my take on that.
Yeah, and I would definitely echo the part around ultimately what's your end goal, right? Because if you want to get into, and you use the example, right? If you want to become a doctor or a lawyer, or ideally you want to go ahead and go for a career where a trade school cannot offer you the stepping stone to get to that career. So ultimately, it depends on what you would like to get out of it, right? So if for example, I decided I wanted to go into the medical field and I wanted to be a doctor, that trade school necessarily won't be a good fit for me. Where if I wanted to be more within, say, hands-on electrical or something like that, then yeah, definitely trade school is where it'll be a better fit because of what that has to offer. And essentially you're tailoring it to your end goal. What exactly is your end goal, and then you can start to set your path to that goal.
Hmm. Hmm. I've seen also where individuals say, um, I can't go to a college. I can't sit in school for 4 years, or I'm an hands-on person. So instead of that individual thinking, let me go to a 4-year school, then maybe that trade school would just come in handy at that point for that person to go get a trade where they would do something hands-on, you know. So really, I do like that sentiments of, choosing what is it that you're good at, or what is it that what field you really want to go into, because sometimes you don't know, but then selecting, hey, I'm not one of those book person. I rather looking at something and then saying, okay, this is what you do, so you're more doing a hands-on versus reading and understanding more. So if in that case, then maybe the trade school. But as they say, it's not a matter of you go here versus here. It's an individual choice. So
And the
thank you
same
guys.
thing is with the trade school, it might open you up to the opportunities for later on progressing towards a college. For example,
Hmm.
let's think about the nursing field where you have LPNs or RNs.
Hmm.
They're doing probably the minimum stuff that's required, but of course, realizing that there are greater potential. One of the greatest things, especially when you're thinking about careers and opportunities, it's often good. Don't be driven by the salary. Yes, it's a good thing, but at the same time, check the salaries to make sure that it's something you'll be comfortable living with. Because, of course,
Yeah.
salaries cannot be the number one driver, but of course, it is an important factor.
Hmm. Very important. Very important. Do you have any regrets in regarding to the college or your career choice?
No, I love mine.
Okay, Jody. Yeah, I
It
see
has
you love
been
yours.
a journey. Like, so my college experience as well as career choices have not always been very straightforward. I would say, if anything, I follow the poem by Robert Frost, The Road Less Taken, and I often kind of meander certain things to figure out what's next. I went to my undergraduate was in psychology. After leaving, I worked with individuals with disabilities. Yes, but at the same time, also while on campus, I worked on the help desk. I love IT and healthcare. So the best thing that I saw to kind of merge the two was to go on and get a master's in healthcare informatics. And it kind of led me to where I am, where I'm doing lots with healthcare related data and, of course, making an impact. So, of course, there's no regrets whatsoever, but of course, I've often had to like go from one place to the next to kind of move myself a bit further. I am a lifelong learner.
Yeah. On my end, as far as my college career, I wouldn't say it's a regret. I definitely enjoyed all 4 years I was there. And what I would say towards it is that the path is not necessarily straight, right? So, you might start off with a specific goal, right? So, in my case, I went into school and my major was business. Once I realized that all my friends was essentially taking business, I thought, well, in the next 4 years, we're all going to graduate and I'm going to have the same degree as four of my friends. So I changed it slowly towards economics, and then that's when I focused into economics. Today, I'm actually in supply chain, which is pretty much about a 60% overlap on what my concentration was, which is great. Where if I knew about the supply chain degree, I would have went straight into that, knowing what I know now. But essentially, the message is that it's not necessarily a straight path. You'll go in, you'll start to learn really who you are, and think about it. When you're going to college, you're 18, 19. Ultimately, you don't know what you will like at 25 and 30, right? So, but you have an idea and direction, right? I know I wanted to do something within business, which is can be more of a general term, but once you get into that, you'll find your niche, right? Really, what drives you? What do you really are passionate about? Because this is, Jody mentioned this before. This is something that you can't just go after the money, because you're gonna ultimately have to enjoy your job. You're doing it day in and day out, 40 hours a day. It's gonna be very painful if you're really going after something and you're not enjoying it or you're not passionate about it. So. As far as going back to your questions, regrets, no, I would say if you do decide to go away, enjoy it. It'll really put you in a really good position to uh, as ultimately put your path on the right track. So no regrets on my end.
I like the what thing you said that about what drives you. It's important that you figure out exactly what drives you and where you want to be. I've heard this statement that if we do something that we love, we don't have to work a day in our lives because every day we will be doing something that we really love and want to learn more about and create so much different things in what you're doing. I had the privilege of coaching an individual yesterday, and I asked her about, how is her career, and she said, I love it. I am the only female in this position in my job, and I love it. Every day
Mhm.
she goes to work, like really enjoying what she's doing and creating things and making a difference, and she loves it. So I said, well, you don't have to work a day in your life because you're going figuring, what can I make
Yeah,
different today?
and think about it, right? The last thing you want to do is you pull into your job and you're sitting outside and you're just regretting or just dreading going inside, right? You never want to get fall into that position where you really genuinely dislike your job. It's one thing if it's something that's part time, but yeah, definitely you don't want to just sit there like, oh man, all right, and you have to pump yourself up to go do 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever it
Or even worse, like having to wake up in the morning and say, like, my gosh, it's Monday.
is.
Can't wait for Friday.
But I do feel like that on Fridays. Oh, it's Friday. I can't wait till Saturday. But that's more of just relaxation. So
Great. Thank you, guys. If you could do it all over, what would you do differently?
I That's a fully loaded question.
Yes.
And the reason why I'd say that's for me because of the fact that yes, I graduated from a private college and then of course had the opportunity to take classes in the CUNY system. The one thing that having ventured into both hemispheres, I've learned a lot in the sense that one, especially when you're in college, if you need help, you need to ask for it. Another thing is that being that most of the opportunities that I've had since are located in the city, I've actually had a more support from the CUNY school professors if I ever needed it versus the upstate ones in which it might be a little harder for me to reach out or find it within myself. But within the CUNY system, they were always willing. I'm not saying the Hamilton professors weren't, but there's more of a connection, so to speak, that I was able to establish with the city university professors in comparison to the ones upstate.
Okay.
yeah, that's true. And in my case, looking back at it, for those who don't know, I grew up in the Bronx, and Buffalo is essentially 6 hours away. I don't regret going to Buffalo. I do genuinely enjoy the time there, being away from home, and ideally that was what I wanted to do, was to go live on campus, live on my own, and fully enjoy and experience that. As far as Jody mentioned, right, the connection that you can build through school, it can help. My takeaway is yes, leaving Buffalo, I did not have any job connection there, but one of the big things I did learn from it is how to network. I learned how to really connect with a total stranger if I needed to. I learned how to conduct myself in different settings. Growing up in the Bronx and I mean, essentially moving from the Bronx to Buffalo, I would like to say that geared me for. Currently, I live in Miami, so that geared me for a bigger move, moving to Miami. Right? I don't think I would have probably been able to move straight from the Bronx, growing up there all my life, down to the other side of the country, where going to Buffalo for 4 years and living there on my own, and just meeting people and building connection. And even though those connections essentially right now did not help me to get into a role that I'm in, but it helped me as far as my career, my professionalism, and having the ability to conduct myself in a certain way, or having the ability to have conversations, or even just the experience itself outside of just the home and the small network that you usually grow up in, right? So that's the biggest exposure that I got from it. And even now I'm on the other side of the country. I do think that the path going there really helped me to get to where I am now.
And the one thing to even think about, like, of course, I've had both the experience of what it's like to be in a public setting versus a private setting, or private school environment. Was one thing I remember when it came on to financial aid or anything like that. Within the public system, there were people waiting in lines. I'm sorry, I never did it in private school. It was a totally different experience. Like, hold on, you're waiting for a check.
Mm, yeah,
And it's so there are different resources that are available within the public school versus in the private school system. One, of course, private schools are more expensive than that of public schools, but the resources you have to be willing. And my
yeah,
advice from someone who I recently spoke with about another school that I'm attending, I was just like, what are you at this point in time, what are some of your qualms about these colleges? Because every college has its little qualm, and you have to be willing to kind of get that understanding. So of course, if you're supposed to encounter them, you can start navigating accordingly. So with the
yeah.
public school system, if you need your help, please find a way to get it. And if you're in the private school and you don't have to worry about the money, then enjoy all the other things that come with it, like traveling and going abroad.
Yeah. I think the next thing though, if you think about it, right? The first year, right? So moving from a high school setting to a college setting, it's night and day. It's night
Yeah.
and day. Where in high school, one, you're still at home, so you have that guardian essentially over you, just double checking, hey, did you do your homework or your projects or things like that. I think
Mhm.
the teachers, even at school, is a little bit more willing to work with you, and they're on you as far as your work and things like that. Once you get to college, essentially you're in a path where you're responsible for your outcome, right? So no one is checking on you. The teacher is not, hey, Rohan, don't forget your homework is due tomorrow. They're not going to do that, right? Essentially, you have to drive yourself and have that mentality that, hey, I need to get my work done. It's midnight. The paper is due at midnight. The paper is due at midnight, right? No one's going to follow up and say, hey, it's due in 3 hours. Did you do it? You have to have that mindset. So I just thought about it a while ago. It was like one regret that I do have is my first year or first semester and a half. I didn't take it as serious as far as I should have. Where going into my final year, I was like a night and day person. Where I look back like, yeah, if I applied myself, I did like how I did my senior year, from the freshman year, it would have been a little bit different, right? But it's go all with the growing within the college career. But if someone would have told me, hey, you have to kind of build that rapport and build that schedule internally on your end, then that would definitely help me going in. So that would be my biggest advice to you going into school is know that you essentially have to build that calendar within yourself. You have to have that drive. You have to have that calendar, that mindset that no one is essentially going to double check and triple check and make sure you know the assignments is due and follow up on you. You have to have that passion and that drive to keep up with it.
And it's either pass or fail.
Yeah, that's a yeah.
Yes, yes. And taking it over means additional money spending. So you don't want to do that. And it means you
And
have to stay
time,
longer.
and
Hmm.
time, yeah,
Time, time.
and time. I they have this. option in school where you can add drop, right? So if you start taking a class, and I believe it's like 4 weeks into it, you have a grace period where you can drop the class. I did that, and it sounds good. Yes, you don't like the class, or you started off on a really bad foot, and you failed the first test or whatever case. Maybe you ended up dropping it. The problem is, okay, you still have to take that class again, right? So I had to make that up, staying in school for a summer instead of coming back home and doing whatever case may be. So there is pros to it, and there's definitely some cons to some of the options that you have as far as ad drop and being able to just drop a class within a few weeks, and then knowing that, hey, okay, now you have a lighter load for that semester. Instead of 5 classes, you have 4. It sounds great, but guess what? A few semesters later on, you will have to take 6 classes to make it up.
Mm-hmm.
So the faster you get to learn the ropes and know what to do, what not to do, what worked for you to make sure you succeed and thrive within your school year is the better off you will be. Sounds like
Yeah,
it, right?
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for that. So tell the students, parents, and adults, everyone alike, about your college experience. What have you learned or been exposed to you had you not gone away to college
So
ever? It could be.
that's a jam-packed question, right? So I'll take the
Yes.
first shot, Jody, and then you can fill in as we go. I think that the biggest thing, right? So some of my core friends now, and I'll start backwards, right? Some of my core friends now are all from school, from college. And that's primarily because once you get to that stage, the friends that you make in college will essentially be in your life forever, especially if they're core friends, right? So even
Mm-hmm.
though I live on the other side of the country, I still communicate with them every day. My college roommate, still one of my really good friends. We travel together every time. I'm the godfather to his kids, right? So we still do have that genuine friendship that you will build with the individuals that you spend that time with, especially if you go away and you're essentially living with these individuals. But I think that's one big takeaway, right? The educational aspect of it, where essentially I wouldn't be qualified for the role that I'm in now if I did not attend school. Does it necessarily mean that I'm smarter than someone that didn't? Absolutely not. It just essentially gives you into that door, right? And having that degree is essentially saying, okay, you had the ability to complete and you're certified to conduct this kind of work, or your experience in this particular field. So it gives you an opportunity to have conversations or even apply for a position where you'll go through, even my role now, we'll go through resumes, and if we're looking for a specific candidate, on paper they might have good, but if they don't have that educational qualification, even though they might be a really good candidate, because you don't have that educational background, automatically you're disqualified. So having that experience essentially opens up additional doors, and then once the doors open, it's up to you to go ahead and step through it. And then the other side of it is just the growth as a person. I think I'm a lot different than I was going into school. Spending the 4 years there, you can see yourself evolve outside of just the educational aspect of it, learning more, understanding who you are, or just building your knowledge. But at the
Mhm.
same time, you're also developing as a person. So that's those three big takeaways I would say I got from my overall experience there. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think there's always a going joke that college is the most expensive 4 year party. I don't think it is essentially a 4 year party. Don't get me wrong, you do enjoy it, right? There is that aspect of it. It's not just all books and work. You do get to do the typical college career and college activities as far as doing events and getting into different organizations. I know myself, I joined a few organizations while I was in school. So I was a part of their Caribbean student organization, where you have individuals that have like interests, that you can join those organizations. I was a part of the Senate, and that really got a kind of expanded just who you interact with, what events you go to. So that gives you an entire community of opportunity. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed the experience. Wouldn't trade it for a while.
I agree. I love my 4 years away in college. It was a phenomenal experience. The one thing that you stated, and I definitely agree with it, is the critical thinking part. One of my advisor, every so often, every time I get a good news, I'm calling her like, "Oh, Miss Brilliant, can you believe this is what's going on?" And one, having gone through and like being at different organizations or even different college and having different colleges experience, it does allow you the opportunity to really think and to think outside of the box. Because most of the time when you're reading a book, you're probably reading a book and trying to interpret it, but of course, when you have that additional depth and growth towards like getting a deeper understanding, you begin to question the logic and the reasoning behind why is it that the author chose these particular words rather than rephrasing it into something else that's probably either a little bit more simpler or even a little bit more complex. We can think about authors who, like, of course, there's so many authors and familiar works out there. For example, Shakespeare. Shakespeare, his stuff's as complicated as can be for a high schooler. But then later on, you're just like, okay, he's just using a different tone. It can be simply said in this way. So, of course, when you're in college, you do learn that critical thinking skill that it's very hard to gain from the real world. And being on a campus, it actually open you up to so my experience of being on campus, it never seemed anyway like what we call the real world. It's a totally different place. Whatever
The
happens on
bubble. Yeah.
campus stays on campus.
Yeah.
And like for example, all the stuff that's happening now, if I was on campus, I know I wouldn't really hear about it because of course you're
Yeah.
so focused on your academics. So that's one thing to consider that yes, when you leave after that 4 years, it's going to be a total thing. You start have to start thinking about your responsibilities. You have to start thinking about your bills and expenses. But of course, college trained you because of course you know what you had to focus and own it on while being away for that 4 years. So in terms of like what I'll tell parents and students about the college experience, it's worth it even with the trade schools when you can do your 6 months away or whatever. Don't limit yourself to thinking that you have to stay in state or go out of state to have a college experience. You can have a college experience. It's amazing no matter where you take it. If it's online, I love online classes. And it's just it all boils down to you just have to make the best use of the opportunity that you're given and run with it. There's something to be learned, and you just have to really know and own it on what is it that this particular experience is teaching me and how can I make a difference.
Yeah. The biggest thing too is right experience, right? It opens you up to different experiences, right?
Mhm.
Throughout your career up to high school, yes, you were exposed to different situations, but then once you move into trade school or college, then it continues and it starts to really stretch who you are, your mindset, the way how your mind evolves afterwards, where you're just exposed to so much that it builds you for it's more of like a foundation builder, and then you can use that to propel yourself after.
Agree.
Okay, great. And parents, I can say as a parent that if your child wants to go away for school, please consider it. I have had this experience where for me it was like, well, you could go to school right up there and you could walk home if you get a chance. But when my child went away to school, all I hear, what are you doing? Washing? What are you doing? Washing? You wash every week? Yeah, because I don't want them to pile up. Guess what? At home, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. That's all I'm hearing. And finally, I was miserable. I was really miserable. How is it going to function on its own? How is this going to happen? But finally, I said, yes, thank you. I'm happy, even though it was not my choice. So I said, if it comes down to it, you can afford it. It's a chance. Let them go. Let them go. You're still holding on to something. little bit. Don't think the rope is ended and everything is gone. No, you can still guide them from a distance, but let them go. And like Jody and Rowan said, they'll be able to gain experience and knowledge that they wouldn't have gained sitting at home if that's an option.
And it's a lifetime experience.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you can
And
gain it later on, but of course, gaining it earlier kind of set the bar for what you want to accomplish later in life.
And then the big thing too, right? I do have, for example, even in my job now, you come across people that go and they experience college in different times, right? So I went from high school directly into college. Not to say it's the best option. There's individuals that they go into the workforce and then afterwards they realize, well, I still need a college degree, and they're 29, 30, or whatever it is, and they're going back to school, which it's a lot harder now because at that time they had different experiences. They have kids, they're in a different scenario situation where it's a lot harder than versus right out of school. Hey, I'm going to college, I'm going to get my degree. Once you're 21, you're out. You can try to funnel your way through and figure out which essentially you want to do in your path. But the college degree is already done, right? So I've already checked off that 4 years. Do I want to go back for my master's? Do I want to go back for certain certification? What do I want to do after that? But getting that 4 years out was crucial for me. And I look back at even some of my coworkers now, they're trying to finish up 4 years, but it takes much longer now because they're doing it part time, or they have a different path and it's just a lot slower. So if you can do it all at once, I would recommend definitely just doing the full 4 years.
I wanted to add something, especially when you think about like the financial aspect right now, and with the fact that some individuals do or benefiting from employee assistance. It's not a
mhm,
bad thing. Like, of course, if you're not certain of what you want to do, go ahead and get certified in the things that you like and that you love, and use that as the opportunity to get that work experience in. And when you have that work experience in, then utilize, if that's an option, the employee financial educational support to, of course, make that next step. There's always a way to further your education rather than thinking like, oh, I have to take out loans. There are many options and many ways to go ahead and get it done. YouTube University is a live one that everybody has been living on, so enjoy it.
yep. Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Anything else? Any final words you want to leave?
I'll just leave with no matter what the path is, right? Whether it's trade school or college, I would definitely recommend doing something though. I wouldn't say let's skip both of them. I would definitely say choose which one fits for you, right? What do you like? I know we mentioned before, are you more hands on, or do you want to be more of a critical thinker? But think of a path in whether it's trade school or staying at home or going away to school or staying in state, going out of state. I think it's more important that you look for a secondary school in order to further your career, as opposed to just going into the workforce.
One advice that I have is seek the advice of individuals who have been there, because oftentimes we do have a tricks or trade that can make it a little easier for you.
Mhm,
For
mhm,
example, once I had a family member who was very excited into going ahead and doing pre-med. I'm like, okay, yes, you're volunteering at a hospital. You know, of course, what it's like, but at the same time, you're going to be doing this for 8 years. At least take a gap year before
mhm,
you head into this thing, because it's going to be 8 continuous years and you can be burned out pretty quickly. So, of course, if it's whether taking a gap year, talking to individuals, especially let's say medical professionals or lawyers who have already had that professional journey,
mhm.
seek their advice and their counsel, because they can tell you how to make it a lot easier rather than for you to be like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. Someone else has already been there. Don't make
Yeah,
it more difficult on yourself.
Yeah.
yeah. So there you have it. Whether it be trade school or it's college, doing nothing is not an option. So choose something. So, parents or students, or you're just listening to gain knowledge, we're at the end of part one, our first session. I want to thank you both for sharing your experience with us. To our listeners, whether it be you're listening live or on replay, thank you so much for stopping by. As we said before, this is our first information session. Tune in to part two, and that session will be all about education, all about finance. How can you finance your education? We'll talk about things like financial aid in a parent's perspective and a student perspective. We'll talk about private loans. We'll talk about parent loans, and many other areas in which you can save towards obtaining your education. If you have a question that was not answered, feel free to leave us your question or call us on the contact number on our channel. If you know someone who need financial coaching, please feel free to reach out to us also. Please like, share, and comment and subscribe to our channel to view updated information which we post regularly. Whatever you do, know that it is possible. Be well. See you next time. Thank you so much for being with us. Good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one.